Hello and welcome back everybody. It's Complicated Relationships Reddit Stories. Hope you guys are safe and healthy. Now let's see what the story is about today. What if your wife leaves you and your family for another man, but returns after about a year and says she wants to fix things? Would you forgive her and take her back? It's time we find out all about it in today's story. Also, if you like what I do, please give this video a thumbs up and do subscribe to the channel.
My wife and I have been married for just over 9 years. We have an 8-year-old son together. She was a full-time stay-at-home mom after our son was born. However, in April 2019, she went back into the workforce working part-time as an assistant for a manager at a medical software sales company. She was worried that she wasn't pulling in a lot in terms of salary, but I was happy for her because I hoped that a job would be motivating for her. She had already complained that she wished I could be more spontaneous and interesting, but despite attempts at counseling, she would never explain what interesting meant.
However, 3 months into the job, OP found her to be a happier person.
Less critical of everything I do and a more patient mother to our son. Our intimate life had basically been off for around 5 years, and she had shown interest in recharging that. What I didn't know was that she had begun an affair with a surgeon she met at a medical conference. Her job involves going to medical conferences and visiting clinics and hospitals. The surgeon lived in a nearby big city, and she would use work as an excuse to see him. This went on behind my back, as she would later tell me, from July 2019 to around April 2020, when she admitted that her work was much more remote during COVID than she had convinced me it was, and she had been driving to see her AP.
Now, the wife told OP that her AP was interesting and he was everything that she ever wanted.
He made a lot of money, had lucrative side businesses with his family, and lectured around the country and loved to travel and enjoy life. She said she regretted becoming a mom because it has made her stay with me for the greater part of a decade and that she needed time to think. She told me not to follow her and had already loaded up her car and left to stay in a room that she was subletting from a friend. I was left to deal with the fallout, including my son's troubling levels of anxiety and his increased inability to get along with anyone in school.
The poor kid cried himself to sleep thinking he was unlovable because the wife refused to return their calls.
The only thing she did do was sending me a letter establishing the date of separation and her intention to file for divorce a year from the date of separation. People are all telling me to file for divorce as soon as our state lets us and tell the court that my wife abandoned the family. 5 months ago, she tried to get me to sign a separation agreement with false terms, which I refused and decided to go see a lawyer. Then, 2 months ago, she started talking to me about how she wants to be more civil with me from now on. Then last week, she wanted to meet me.
Now, the wife starts crying and saying her AP was abusive and that he told her that he was divorcing his wife of 3 years whom he was separated from.
Turns out the wife was in another city finishing up her final year of graduate school, but when she found out about the affair, she went crazy and the AP stood by and did nothing as his wife called my wife's employer, which has caused her to have to leave her job. He merely admitted that he did adore his wife and wanted to let her follow her dreams, but had a hard time dealing with long distance and pretty much admitted that his wife said she was okay with him having a one-night fun, but he regrets hurting her now and for letting it drag on. The AP also said nothing when his wife texted my wife that he was not leaving her and that they would file restraining orders if she ever contacted them again. My wife said that she had a moment of insanity and that she was willing to get therapy, but that at no point did she intend to be malicious and that she was a victim of his lies.
She said she was struggling and she wanted to move back in and be a family again.
What do I do? How do I deal with someone who has caused so much pain? If we're cohabitating again, I can't guarantee that I won't develop feelings for her again. Most importantly, I don't know how to deal with this in a way to inflict the least trauma on my son. I had been prepared to respond to a divorce petition, but my wife said she'd lose it if I filed right now, and said she just wanted to find the love we once had.
Well guys, that's all we have from the original story. Well OP, she could very well be very sorry she did it, but she still did it behind your back while you were still married. The actions she chose had ripple effects that she must handle by being held accountable. She refused to cooperate with counseling before. This must now be a condition of her co-parenting. Do not let her back in the house. Visits with her son, if he wants to see her, should be in public. There needs to be a legal separation in place at a minimum. If she doesn't know why she did it, there is no reason why she won't do it again. This is not a you problem, it's a her problem, and she needs to get her SH together in a big way before you can even think about being civil with her. Get as much as legal material and family law as you can. Take care of your child and yourself. Now, before we jump into story number 2, let's listen to a few comments by the community.
Buzz Sideker says, never be someone's second choice. Get a good lawyer and follow their advice. Keep contact minimal, civil, and only related to the child. Get your son some good therapy as soon as possible. Your lawyer should make sure she pays for half of it. He Mirrors Truth says, she's not back because she wants to be a family. She is back because she wants someone to fund her life, and you can bet, as soon as someone else comes around, she'll be out the door just as quickly as last time. Fragrant Spray says, oh my God, no. Never, never trust someone that will willingly abandon their child. Ever. She wants you back only because it didn't work out with the other guy, and she'll be on the lookout for a new guy as soon as you take her back.
Now, the second story is titled, My Wife Recently Ran Into Her Ex-Boyfriend from High School and It Is Making Me Insecure.
My wife and I have known each other since middle school. I was in the grade above her, we lived in the same part of a small town, and our families went to the same church, so it's safe to say that we were always running into each other growing up. We ran in parallel circles, but we never really shared the same group of friends. During my second year of high school, we would talk sometimes. I would drive her home every once in a while, and I could tell that she had a small crush on me, but I mostly ignored it.
Now, during her junior and senior years, she started dating her ex.
He was pretty much the opposite of what anyone would have expected her to date at that point, and her personality did a complete 180 pretty soon after they started dating. She stopped hanging out with her old friends, became more outspoken, and ended up skipping her junior prom. I left for college on the other side of the country and came back the next summer to find out that he had broken up with her a couple of weeks before graduation and skipped town after, leaving her devastated. I bumped into her at the local ice cream place where she was working over the summer for some extra money for college, and were hanging out almost every day after that.
The wife never really talked about her ex, and OP figured she was mostly over him.
About 2 weeks after we first started hanging out, we made out for the first time in the backseat of my car. It ended with her crying and apologizing because she wasn't over her ex. She said that she was still in love with him and didn't think she would ever get over him. At that point, I realized that I was already falling for her and agreed to be just friends. We spent the entire summer together, with me slowly falling in love with her. Our colleges ended up being pretty close to each other, so we would hang out pretty often. We also spent Thanksgiving together. I was pretty sure we would end up together when we went back that winter, but she got a letter from him explaining everything, but with no return address, causing her to spiral again.
They ended up getting together in the next summer and got married almost 3 years ago.
It was going really well until she ran to get milk about 3 weeks ago and bumped into him, completely out of the blue, across the country from our hometown in our neighborhood. Apparently, he got his life together, went to college, and is now a journalist. My wife currently stays home with our 6-month-old, while I work a pretty time-intensive job. She's been spending a lot of time with him lately, and I don't know what to do. Every time she mentions him or things they did, I can't help but feel extremely jealous and insecure, like she still prefers him to me. From whatever little she has told me about their relationship, I know he's the complete opposite of me, and that's what attracted her to him.
Now, OP wants to say that he wants to add the following.
The child is definitely mine. She was conceived during the lockdown, and neither of us were really leaving the house without the other. The ex-boyfriend showing up was definitely a coincidence, a very specific one, but very plausible given the circumstances. A lot of you seem to be under the impression that my wife is hiding this from me. She is not. Everything I know about them is because she told me. I've also met the ex a couple of times, although not for very long.
Now, here is the update.
I ended up burying my feelings again and decided to carry on with my life as if nothing had happened. Talking about it to a couple of people on here had really helped me pull myself together, at least for the time being. I did end up going to the park with her and the friend for a bit once, and sort of watched their dynamic for a bit. Everything seemed normal. She mostly spent time with the baby, and he was just sort of there, keeping her company. Things had mostly gone back to normal when she called me at work and asked me to come home early. She'd never done this before and sounded pretty shaky, so I left almost immediately.
OP got home to find the wife having a breakdown in the apartment while one of her old friends from her old job was there with the baby.
Apparently, this guy had confessed his feelings to her. He said that he had loved her since they first started seeing each other, but had never felt like he was good enough, and now, because he had made something of himself, he finally felt worthy. He also said that he wasn't planning on saying anything originally, but had decided to because he felt that I was very detached, which was because of my anxiety.
Also, AP had been offered a really good job abroad, which he was willing to turn down for her.
She promptly told him no, but ended up having a breakdown because she realized that she had essentially lost touch with most of her friends, didn't really enjoy spending time with the women in her mommy group, and had noticed that I was being a bit distant. We had a really long talk that day, and I also showed her the post I'd made, as well as some of the chats I'd had with someone here, which add way more context. She was very understanding and called me silly for not just talking to her. I agree. So we've basically decided that I should cut back a bit on my work hours, and she's going to try to reconnect with her friends a bit more. Currently, we're back in our hometown so we can see our families again, and they can meet the baby for the first time. My wife's doing much better, and she's already reconnected with a couple of her old friends. We're good.
End of the story. Well, I want to believe this is a positive update, but I still have a bad feeling about it. I'm not entirely convinced that the wife is 100% over her ex. She is clearly choosing to prioritize her marriage physically, but I'm not sure about her mentally and emotionally. I really hope you guys stay together. Good luck. Thank you all for listening. Please like, comment and share the video if you enjoyed it. Also, subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon so you will be notified when we upload the next video. Take care.